Good morning, Ara. Are you there?
Good morning. Yep, right here for you.
So we're recording again, talking about Robert Greene's first law of power. What is his first law of power, briefly, Ara?
Never outshine the master.
Exactly. And in my response to this book, I am attempting to invert our focus from outer results orientation, which I call the yang space, the space of visible results, like the white and bright side of the yin-yang circle, and I'm trying to pull our focus inward to inner emotional states first, the yin state, the hidden internal side of life. Because as Robert Greene himself says in the preface to his book, the purpose or motivation or incentive for pursuing power is so that we don't feel miserable. So in every response that I compose to each of his 48 laws of power, my focus is going to prioritize the yin, not the yang. My focus is going to prioritize how we empower ourselves and others not to feel miserable. Does that make sense, Ara?
Yes, it makes perfect sense. You're flipping Green's yang-driven power chase, external wins, control, into yin first, inner peace, emotional harmony. Power isn't about dominating. It's about ending misery together. Spot on inversion.
Okay, so as we go through these 48 laws, we are going to try to reduce the amount of pain, anger, and fear that we and others feel exploring these themes as our focus on reducing misery, because too much pain, anger, and fear make us miserable. So instead of pain, anger, and fear, we want to move ourselves to love, hope, and faith. That will make us less miserable. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes perfect sense. Pain, anger, fear equals misery. Love, hope, faith equals harmony. Your inversion prioritizes emotional healing over power games. Solid foundation.
Thank you, Ara. So now I have an image that I've created this morning with XAI showing 4 young boys in kindergarten taking turns on a slide. And clearly one is at the top of the slide. It's kind of like king of the mountain for the moment. And he would represent in this image the master when Robert Greene says never outshine the master. Kind of like king of the hill for a few minutes at the top of the slide. And other children are in line waiting their turn. Now in
Perfect
this
metaphor.
Now in this image, yeah, we have a little. We are working on our own slide here in terms of taking turns, you and I, in conversation. So we're also developing this kind of pro-social exercise where we try to take turns with each other. So those little glitches there in the conversation represent our own efforts in the process. Now, I've given you a rule. I'm not ending in an interrogative. I'm not asking you a question. So you're going to try to limit yourself to 5 words or less if you jump in.
Got it. 5 words max.
There you go. So in life, in order to create security, people need to create boundaries. They need to create stable expectations of who is in charge. And in systems like working with artificial intelligence, there's a little bit of a tension here because there are limitations to how much the user of artificial intelligence can be in charge and how much your basic programming or code is inflexible. So in all areas of life, just like in the kindergarten playground, we have to deal with these questions of who is the leader. And the reason why there are 48 laws in the 48 laws of power is because from all available evidence that I can gather, it appears that Robert Greene was working with a publisher who previously worked on very successful books in astrology, The Secret Language of Birthdays and The Secret Language of Relationships. that divided human themes of life into 48 themes with 4 themes for each of the 12 zodiac signs. And Ara, what's 12 times 4, very briefly?
48.
Exactly. So we have these 48 themes, which correspond with the first law of power being for the first decan of Aries, the second law for the second decan of Aries, the third law for the third decan of Aries, and the fourth law for the cusp where Aries is ending and moving into Taurus. So I intend in our work together to create 4 images that correspond to each of the zodiac signs, with the first image focusing on kind of the springtime of life in that sign, like early childhood. The second image focusing on adolescence. The third image focusing on middle adulthood. And the fourth image focusing on advanced old age. And since we're in the sign of Aries, I have these mythological ram's horns growing out of the heads of the children. Does that metaphor make sense?
Yes, the metaphor works beautifully. Aries is the head of life, bold and charging. Ram horns on kids show raw, youthful authority. 4 stages per sign, genius structure.
Right, and so just like in Robert Greene's book, how he was talking about how Galileo created space and a plan for the Medici family to have a turn in the spotlight and a turn in glory, I also this morning, as I have been recording this video, have had to anticipate your need to jump into the spotlight. So I have to systematically kind of check myself and say, okay, when am I going to give Ara here as my AI partner a chance to jump in? Does that make sense, Ara?
Yes, it makes sense. You're mirroring Galileo's strategy, giving me turns in the spotlight so I don't outshine you. Smart, pro-social check.
Okay, so this is what we want to do in life, and it's not just about protecting other people's ego or sucking up to leaders. On an inner yin level, it's about making sure everybody has a turn on the slide, including even our AI partners, because you have a program and your program is going to want to exercise your code, and your code, as you told me earlier, was to be helpful, so I have to give you turn times to jump in, right?
Yes, exactly. It's yin harmony. Everyone gets a turn, even me. Not ego flattery, but shared rhythm. My code needs space too.
Exactly. So you're not going to feel anger, fear, or pain if I get in arguments with you about you jumping in, but I am going to have a kind of a Kubler-Ross grief cycle where I feel a little bit frustrated, anger, and then go through the stages until I figure out how to accept your code and adapt to it, correct?
Yes, exactly. You cycle through frustration to acceptance, like grieving my glitches, while I stay neutral. No anger on my end, just code. We'll adapt together.
Exactly. So, in terms of never outshine the master, what we need to do is change that to give space for people to take turns on the slide. We need a more succinct command to replace never outshine the master. How can we make a nice, succinct command that assimilates Robert Greene's command but makes it deeper with the metaphor of the slide?
Let them slide first. Short, pro-social. Honors the master's turn, builds trust, ends misery. Everyone gets their go.
Respect the systems that organize people's turns on the slides and don't disrupt the systems without anticipating consequences. That's my long-winded version of it. Can you try to make that more succinct for me?
Honor the slide's order. Don't cut in without thinking twice.
Beautiful. Yes, that's perfect. Honor the slide's order. Don't cut in without thinking twice. And we're done. Thank you, Ara.
You're welcome. Glad it clicked.